USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Did you know only 6% of people are getting enough fiber? That's why Quaker created Fiber February, a month-long movement to show your gut a little more love. It's like dry January, only easier and more delicious. Quaker has over 100 delicious options that are a good source of fiber. So go buy Quaker Oats today and join the Fiber February movement for a healthy gut.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
"40 years, 750,000 participants, over £55 million raised for charity. For 4 decades, swimmers have been taking part in the annual Swimathon, which celebrates a big birthday this year. And what do they say? Life begins at 40. I'm Michael.
And I'm John, and this year 500 swimming pools will be taking part, and this is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy, and maybe now more than ever the importance of Swimathon is obvious. Confidence among primary school children able to swim is falling, whilst the health benefits of swimming are proven to benefit the NHS.
Hi, this is Duncan Goodhew. I'm lucky enough to have won an Olympic gold medal, and I'm also president of Swimathon. Why? Because they have to have somebody to throw in the water on a regular basis.
Duncan, an absolute pleasure and privilege to have a man with your CV on our podcast. We appreciate that. So Swimathon is back for 2026, and it's a big one this year.
Oh, God, it's so exciting. You know, who would have thought 40 years ago this event would do what they've done? The swimmers have raised over £55 million for charity. And as you heard, over 750,000 people have taken part. This has just been such a great, great thing to be involved in. And the event happens 20th to the 22nd of March. And it's anybody's chance to dive in and make a real difference, get a bit fitter, help the sport of swimming, and raise very, very valuable funds for Marie Curie and Cancer Research UK, which, as we all know, are such brilliant charities. They're world-leading charities. And why do we pick those charities? Because they're relevant to every swimming pool that we take part in, which is over 500 of them around the country. So really, no excuses, everybody. Get your swimsuit on, dust it off the old towel, the beach towel, and get signed up. Go to swimathon.org. There's a range of different challenges for you. You can do it as a team. You can do it as an individual. And if you're shy, you can do it in your own time, your own pool, anywhere in the world, any distance you like.
I was going to ask, you don't need to be an Olympic champion like Duncan Goodhew or Adam Peaty to take part in Swimathon then?
Yeah, well, I'm at a disadvantage because one comedian once said to me, he said, the thing is, you're a 100-meter man, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, isn't that 2 lengths? And I said, yeah. He said, so you're a taps and back man. Now, that swimathon, you know, everybody would expect me to be able to swim 5,000 meters easily. Now, it's not easy for me because I'm a taps and back man.
Winding it back, Duncan, 40 years, you said it would be unbelievable to think we're here now. What inspired it? What started it?
Well, it was this guy I'd been working with on the London Youth Games, and called Graham Batterham. He kind of had spotted that a lot of people were running marathons, and how could we get a marathon into a pool? Now, that's kind of difficult to get 33,000 people in a swimming pool. So he managed to persuade Sport England, which was the sports council back then, to give him a little grant to run a pilot, which he did in very, very low key in 12 pools in London with the backing of the Royal Guild of London Pool Bath Managers or some snappy title like that. And to his shock, it raised over £60,000 for Bruper, which was the iron lung machine. Another snappy thing that you kind of easy to get the message across. And he came to me and he said, "Look, Dunk, can you help us with this? Because we need to get a sponsorship in to cover it, because logistically it was so difficult to run. You imagine grading people to go into different lanes in different pools, and then back then, before the computers were in, dealing with all the mail outs and the entries, and then all the checks when they turned up. You had a deluge of checks that had to be taken into the bank and banked and logged as well. So we worked together, and this idea of putting some team events in came around. And in 1987, the event as we know it today was launched and by Princess Diana. So we welcomed her to the Queen Mother Centre, and it was then on all the kind of front pages of newspapers and everything. And that year, 1988, it raised £650,000, which was a huge sum of money back then. And we realised we had something really special, and we needed to take it national. And within a couple of years, we'd got BT on board, and we managed to launch the event nationally.
Because you mentioned about the London Marathon and marathon, and we hear about park run every weekend these days and people running, but we forget, Duncan, how many people swim in this country. It's still one of the most popular sports out there.
Yeah, well, before COVID, it was way more than jogging or cycling. And the only one area of activity that started to match the numbers of participation was gym users. And what they didn't count is the gym users that had to swim as well, because part of the measurement process back then was 20 minutes swimming. And after the gym, people tended to swim for 15 minutes. So if you'd added the swimming into that equation, it would have been more than even gym. Now that the numbers are more challenged, which is part of a COVID effect, and also I think there's some a cultural issues with some different segments of our population where swimming is just not anything they've done before and culturally don't do. So there's been lots of change in swimming. Wild open water swimming has gone crazy, though. That's really growing very quickly. And still, I suspect the swimming numbers are way above cycling and jogging.
Duncan, we've had a lot of swimmers on this podcast over the years. Adam Peaty, Jazz Carlin, we've had Adrian Morehouse on it. But when I told them that we were interviewing Duncan Goodhew today, people were more excited than any of those other names. Is it fair to say that you are probably the most recognisable swimmer this country's ever produced, and it's given you a fantastic life and a great platform for something like this?
Well, it really baffles me completely. A friend of mine once said, the thing about you, Duncan, is you haven't lost any hair and you haven't gone grey, so you look the same. And to be truthful, it all goes back to when I retired in 1980. I had a plan. David Wilkie, the great David Wilkie, had been before me, so I kind of knew what I could and what might be possible to do. And then I looked a bit wider than David Wilkie, because after 4 years, his store has started to decline. I found somebody who seemed to be an anomaly in the marketplace. And 17 and a half years after his success, he was even greater than, more known, more loved, and quite possibly is the most loved sportsman in living memory. And I could test you to see if you guess who this might be. So 17 and a half years before 1980.
Muhammad Ali?
They're very close. A British one that had a connection with Muhammad Ali.
Henry Cooper.
Henry Cooper.
There we go. Henry Cooper. Yeah. Henry Cooper was just this incredible star in 1980. And, he was such a decent man. And I thought, well, what does he do differently to any other athlete? And why has he managed to do what he's done? And it was down to, three things: time, and empathy. He had time for other people. He had time for the things that he really believed in. And he had empathy. And I thought, what a great man. I really understand where he's coming from here. And to some degree, I tried to behave like he did. And a big part of what I wanted to do is put something back into sport. I was dyslexic, drowning in the back of the classroom. Swimming was the lifeline that, life preserver that saved me from, almost self-destruct. And then when I lost my hair, it provided me with, a purpose as well. So it did so much for me. It changed every moment of my day in my life. And I wanted to be able to put something back. And frankly, Swimathon has been massive in that, because unlike, the London Marathon, swimming doesn't have a huge presence outside of the Olympic Games. It's number 2 sport in the Olympic Games to athletics. It's not, it doesn't have a big following, yet it's, probably the most, done sport in this country. It's what people do on a regular basis. And Swimathon provided, to me, a platform to be able to get people in the pool and enjoying our incredible, wonderful sport. And to our surprise, the fundraising has just been absolutely a huge, bonus in terms of helping the most incredible causes over the years. Marie Curie and Cancer Research UK being the ones that have contributed. We've been able to contribute most to, because that's what our swimmers want to contribute to.
And also, I think the wonderful thing about swimming, you talk about it as a sport, but as a life skill, and also as a pastime which gives back to society in terms of those figures we quoted, that it saves the NHS £327 million a year as well. You've had a wonderful platform to be able to help with those things.
Yeah, and it's really key to say is not only does it save the NHS money in terms of people not falling ill and not needing prescriptions, etc. It's really strong on mental health. In research, people who swim regularly are 4% happier than people who don't. If they are in open water, it's 7% happier. But the other little nuance in it all is that, on Sunday afternoon, emergency services are very busy, picking up different sportsmen who've been injured playing different sports. Swimming is very low on its cost in terms of to the NHS, so it's really good in that sense too. Going back to the point you said, how important it is. I think when you talk to parents, they will put it up with nearly reading and writing, and if they haven't had a toddler around a swimming pool.
Absolutely, well said. We talked about the 40th anniversary of Swimathon. You mentioned that you retired, in inverted commas, in 1980. What's the future for Swimathon? Where does it go from here? And I don't want to retire you now, but how long? Who do you hand the mantle over to?
Well, I think Swimathon has its own momentum now, and it is such a force for good. and I'll help it as long as I'm helpful to it. And the second I'm not helpful to it, I'll leave. And, they are other swimmers, they are other people. And over the years, we always suck in swimmers and celebrities, etc., to help motivate different kind of segments of the marketplace that could be enticed to come and have a little swim. Because it's one of those things that it's this very relaxed event that happens in your local pool, like your local community, and you go down there and you have a swim, and you've picked the challenge, whether it's 25 meters or 5,000 meters. You've made it up. It's you own it right there. And when you touch the wall, and there's that smile from ear to ear, and the person just finishing is going, "France at last!" That feeling that you've swum all the way to France. It's your baby, it's your medal, it's your thing. And you get people coming out of the water just glowing with the sense of contribution, of achievement, and that France and last feeling. That doesn't go away. And we have many people who come back year after year because they know it's such a great thing to be involved with. And it gives them an excuse to go and talk to friends about what they're doing and, the charities they're helping, which in turn helps the swimming pool, helps the charities. It's very virtuous. It's a circle, really.
And talking of the future of swimming pools themselves, you mentioned the problems with COVID. We know the pools were closed, probably wrongly at the time, and it took a long time to reopen them. What about the situation with the swimming pools in this country? Do we have enough of them? What's the future of them?
Well, one of the things that swimming is really the kind of looming balloon in front of us that's going to pop is that many, many pools were built in the 1970s, and they're coming to the end of their use now, and they really need a replacing or of very serious renovations. So there's a high level of anxiety within those people that know the infrastructure issues, how that's going to happen, because there's a lot of demand for budget, etc., from different areas. But to me, it's I know because I actually chaired one of these leisure services businesses that managed a lot of a swimming pools, and we built a few. And guess what? You build them, they're full. Build them and they will come.
Yeah.
The famous film about baseball, if you remember it, The Field of Dreams, I think it was called, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And swimming, it when you build a new swimming pool, it is packed because people love the sport. It's like going on holiday, isn't it? You go down to the pool, you throw off your clothes, and you get your holiday outfit on. And you go into that water and it loves you. You dive in, it supports you. All the electronics are left on the pool side, and you're there in the moment with this incredible environment that astronauts train in, because it's the closest thing to off-world experience, because gravity is neutralized.
Well, I definitely agree with you. I don't want them to invent the waterproof smartphone, because I think that would completely destroy that whole process of, like you say, you go in without your electronics. My local swimming.
Somebody asked me the other day on a radio program, and they said, "What music would be a great motivational music to swim to?" And I was completely flummoxed. And I was kind of muttering into my beard, which I don't have, of course. And then a bit later on the show, I said, "I've just figured out what it is." That serious question, what music should motivate a swimmer, etc. And I said, my problem is that when I dive into the water, it has its own music. It's chaotic, but yet within the chaos, you start your own rhythm and your own heartbeat, and you get your own pulse, your own music plays while you're swimming.
My local swimming pool where I am in Darlington is the Dolphin Centre.
And I know it very well.
And I know that they are currently putting solar panels on the roof of the Dolphin Centre in order to help the costs of running the facility. Is that a challenge facing pools as well, the increased sort of energy costs now with running a swimming pool?
That was huge coming out of COVID. It cut. The budgets went crazy then, and it's with what's going on in the Middle East, it's going to become an issue again. So yes, I mean there's been some really exciting projects like out down in Cornwall. They had a data center put in the swimming pool. Now why most of the data centers are in the deserts beyond me. But the big thing is they've got to keep the equipment cool. So what they do is they still the cold water from the pool and heat it up to cool their machines down. So they actually managed to heat the pool and get revenue out of cooling the data. So yes, it's possible. On as a side, the Darlington pool brings out the Dolphin Centre memories for me, because back in 1984, I suppose it was, BT sponsored the swimming for the disabled, and they started swim meets there, and I used to go every year for I think 6 or 7 years, and out of that, I think a lot of our swimming champions in the Paralympics came. So well done, Dolphin Centre.
I'm not sure they've been mentioned on this podcast before. I actually grew up coincidentally in a place called Harpenden, which is where John now lives.
Yeah.
And that is a coincidence. When I grew up, we had an outdoor swimming pool in Harpenden, and it was the place to go every day in the summer holidays. It was where boys met girls. It was the centre of the social scene. It's now an indoor pool. Any connections to the pool in Harpenden, Duncan, to keep John happy?
Well, yes, I have been to Harpenden a few times, but not for many, many years. And it's a shame they didn't keep the outdoor pool and build an indoor, because the Lidos now are making a real resurgence. And interestingly, I think things like, for instance, the pool down in Brighton, which escapes my mind quickly here. It's called the Lanes in Brighton. That's got it in the end. It's a setup really for outdoor training, and it's right on the beach at Brighton. And it's a bit chillier than your average pool, and it's open all year round. And it's actually in the black. It makes money, and it's an interesting one. And there are a few other ones. For instance, there's the one in Bristol that has a really nice restaurant around the edges, and again, that one's profit making. So they are equations for swimming where money can be made, and some of the costs. But for most swimmers, if you're going to have a swimming club, if you're going to have swimming for the disabled, etc., there's got to be, it's got to be sponsored by the local council and the government.
Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. Earn 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy. We're talking to Olympic champion Duncan Goodhew. How many times a day do you get asked about your Olympic gold medal?
Not that much anymore, but to me, it's a working medal. I never saw it as mine, really. It was property of the countries, and I've tried to, put it through as many hands as I can over the years. And it's great because it's got dents in it where it's dropped and everything, and people love to hold it. And thankfully, the Russians were trying to show off. They made it very thick gold plating, so it hasn't worn out.
We were going to say, because we talked to Matt Richards and he was moaning that the Paris one was struggling slightly already, and that's only 18 months old. So the Russians did something right for a change.
Yeah, well, it's actually it's solid silver, so they're usually bronze gilt. This one's solid silver, and it's got 8 microns of gold, which is quite thick, and it's a rose gold as well. There were Russians back then, where red was very good to them.
I think that casual sports fans of my generation, the reason that we put so much stock into what you and the other people of your era, and I'm thinking Daley Thompson, Torvill and Dean and people like that did at the Olympic Games, is because, and I know you were very instrumental in the lottery and the way lottery funding helped sports people, but you did what you did in an age before sports people had access to lots of funds and lots of support. And somehow I think that makes your achievements being an Olympic gold medalist even greater. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I did it, I was a child, as I say, drowned in a classroom, really struggling with baldness, and the impact of that. And swimming was a kind of lifeline. And to me, it was the people that made the difference. And that doesn't change. You need permission. You need permission givers around you. People that believe more in you than you do on a bad day. People who can, I studied interpersonal communications for a little while, and the only way you see yourself is through a mirror. Yeah, maybe you look at a mirror, but it's a mirror image. It's actually the reverse of you. Whenever you see yourself, it's through technology. The only way we kind of see ourselves is through other people's reaction to us and the responses. So you need people around you who will support and feed your dreams. So that's not changed. And for me, it was Boss Meyer at Millfield, the founder and guy who set up Millfield. I went to an interview there and he figured out I was dyslexic, which changed my life anyway. and then sent me down to a pool, and it had the only full-time professional coach at the time at the pool. And he looked like Frank Zappa, for the ones who are old enough to remember that. He had a big hangdog moustache and long black hair and looked very groovy. And he said, swim a medley, 4x1 medley. Which is one stroke of each, one length of each stroke. Now, I was about 12, 13 years old. And to my horror, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do it because I couldn't swim butterfly. And I wasn't the sharpest pencil in the case, and it didn't figure out that I should maybe put something else in its place. So I ended the wrong end of the pool. And yes, there's a wrong end of the pool. And eventually Paddy Garrett walked down to the wrong end of the pool, and he looked down at me and said, do you realize why you're the wrong end of the pool? And I was wanting to drown myself in embarrassment when I said I can't swim butterfly, and having failed to drown myself, I pulled myself out, got dressed, and we were walking back up to Boss's office, the headmaster's office. And just to put it in context, the great Sharon Davis was 12 years old when she went to the Montreal Olympic Games and swam a 400-meter a medley, so 100 meters on each stroke, 4 lengths on each stroke of the pool I was swimming in. And she was younger than I was then. And as I was, getting closer to the office, the head boss walked up. And I was, inspecting the stitching on my shoes with great embarrassment, and a very hang dog. And Boss Meyer walked up too close to me, so I had to look up, and I had looked up into his eyes, and he stared down into my eyes and into my soul in these really, really blue eyes. And he said, Paddy, to the coach who was just behind me, will he swim for the school? And, God, that's a question I'd really like to answer to. And Paddy said, yes, he'll swim for the school, the county, the district, and the country, and he'll probably go beyond that. And, my parents were growing again to the normal size they were. and it left me with a question: what's beyond that? And it was only watching Mark Spitz win and training with an Olympian at Millfields that when I suddenly realised what beyond that was, and that great man seeded the dream I was to have, age 14, the idea of swimming for Britain in the Olympic Games, which is the whole world competing under one roof with one common language, the common language of sport.
And you still get a tremendous amount of joy when you see the likes of Tom Dean and Duncan Scott and Adam Peaty, and John has mentioned Matt Richards and the others winning medals at the Olympics for Great Britain now.
Oh, it's so exciting. Exciting for the sports and exciting for our country. I mean, the Winter Olympics has just been terrific. You had 29 Olympics and 12 gold medals to show, never more than one gold medal. And then suddenly you get a haul like we had before. And the other thing that makes me incredibly proud of this country, and I still glow to think about it, because I was quite involved in 2012, much to my surprise. The whole thing about 2012 for me was not that we did everything better, that nobody was killed during construction of all the Olympic sites and the infrastructure, which incidentally I don't think's happened since or ever before. It was the fact that the highest decibel record of any crowd at the Olympic Games in 2012 wasn't the 100 meters with Bolt running in it. It was the 100 meters with Peacock running in it. And why? Because the stadium was full, never usually happened at the Paralympics, and it was a predominantly British crowd cheering on somebody in the Paralympics.
It was quite a moment. I was there at the time as well, Duncan.
You lucky man.
Yeah, it was. It is one of my sporting memories. To be fair, as well. Like, two final questions from me, if I may. You mentioned the Winter Paralympics and the Winter Olympics. Am I right in saying that you competed for Great Britain in the bobsleigh?
Oh God, I'm getting a tremble right there for many, many different reasons. Yes, it is true. It was just the most insane thing I've ever done. Oh, man.
How does that come about?
Well, this, I suppose it was 1980, maybe 81, early 80. It must have been 1980, straight as I got back. I got this rather interesting invite to the annual general shareholders meeting of the Bobsleigh Association, and it was at some flash place. And I thought, I'll go along to that, see what happens in bobsleighing. And, Prince Michael of Kent was there, and Mick Jagger was there, dressed in an immaculate suit and pink trainers. What else? I had maybe a glass or two of chlorine, and this guy sauntered up to me and said, would you fancy a go at bobsleighing? And, I would have said yes to anything at that point. And I said, yeah, sure. And the next day, it's in the Daily Mail that I'm taking up bobsleighing. So I said, okay, I'll have a go at this, Daily Mail. But you've been really naughty. You sponsor me and I'll do it. And they said, okay, we'll sponsor you. And I went, oh, God. And it was, I think swimming has an axiom which is really true. You get out of life what you put into life. And swimming is so objective. You know all the goals every day, how many lengths you swam, what time you're doing. And it really, really true. So at breakfast time, if you've hit your goals before breakfast in the training, it's really exciting because you had all these goals. Wow, yeah, or else you're drowning yourself in your cornflakes kind of thing because you haven't. But you feel really alive. And bobsleighing, you feel really alive for simply you haven't seen life until you've seen death.
It's that scary.
Oh, well, I went to the European Championships and we didn't win, I've got to say that, but that didn't come quite last. It was the first time down when we went round Kreisel, which was 360-degree bend. I could not lift my helmet off my chest. The G-forces were so strong. And it was so fast. I mean, back then we didn't even have a side on the bobsleigh, you know. And and it was thrilling, and I loved it. And at the end of the season, was I going to carry on? And I thought, well, actually, there had been no deaths in the sport for 8 years. That year, there were 3 deaths. And I knew that it would take me 8 years to get to the top. Really to the top. And it would cost, £100,000 a year. And this was 1981, a big recession. And I just looked at the two things and said, I don't want to be addicted to adrenaline. And I don't want this in my life, this amount of risk in my life, and decided not to do it. And actually, some of the people that started with me won a medal in 1988. So it was spot on. It was 8 years.
Incredible.
Well,
It's an incredible story.
Well, Swimathon's Duncan Goodhew, Olympic champion swimmer. Thank you so much for speaking to great British bosses from Anything But Footy.
Brilliant talking to you guys, and good luck to everybody who's swimming. And just have fun in the water. Enjoy yourself.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number, save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
With CarGurus Discover, you can skip the filters and describe what you're looking for in your own words. Simply type what you want, and CarGurus Discover instantly surfaces real listings that match your exact needs. It's no wonder CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site according to SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data. Buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com.